Let me ask you something. If you are not a developer, how do you know if the person you are hiring to build your app is actually good at what they do? You can't read code. You don't know what scalable architecture means. You have never built a software before. So, how do you tell the difference between a rockstar developer and someone who's going to waste 6 months of your time and all of your money? I had a founder reach out to me a few months ago. Let's call her Lisa. Lisa had spent 9 months and about $50,000 building her app with a developer she found on Upwork. The developer had great reviews, 5 stars, dozens of completed projects, a really polished profile. On paper, this person looked perfect. And for the first few months, everything seemed fine. The developer was responsive, sent updates, showed progress. Lisa thought she'd found the perfect partner. But then she started testing the app. Features didn't work the way they were supposed to. The app crashes constantly. Simple changes took weeks to implement. And when she asked the developer to fix things, suddenly communication slowed down. By month 9, the developer basically ghosted her, left her with an app that barely functioned and code that was, in her words, a complete mess. She came to me if we could fix it. And when my team looked at the code, we realized something. This developer wasn't just mediocre. They were fundamentally unqualified for the job they had been hired to do. Here's the thing that nobody tells non technical founders. Just because someone can code doesn't mean they are a good developer. Let me explain what I mean. Coding is a skill. It's something you can learn from a bootcamp, from YouTube, from online courses. You can learn the syntax, how to make buttons work, how to connect to a database. But being a good developer, that's completely different. A good developer understands architecture. They think about scalability. They write code that other people can read and maintain. They anticipate problems before they happen. They know when to use a complex solution and when to keep it simple. It's the difference between someone who can cook and someone who's a chef. Anyone can follow a recipe, but a chef understands flavors, techniques, timing. They can improvise, they can handle problems. They know what they are doing at a deeper level. The problem is when you are not technical, you can't tell the difference. They both look the same to you. So you end up hiring someone based on their portfolio, their communication skills, maybe how cheap they are. And you don't realize until months later that you made a mistake. And by then, it's expensive, not just financially, although that's a big part of it, but you have also lost time, you have lost momentum, you have maybe lost your market window. And here's the worst part. When you finally realize the person you had hired isn't good, you are stuck. Because now you have all this code that doesn't work properly and you have two options. Option 1, you hire someone else to fix it, but that takes time and money. And here's no guarantee the new person can even salvage what's been built. Option 2, you start over from scratch, which means all that money and time you invested, gone. Neither option is good. So the question becomes, how do you avoid this in the first place? How do you evaluate a developer when you don't have the technical knowledge to judge their work? That's what I want to teach you today. Because there are ways to do this. You don't need to be technical. You just need to know what questions to ask and what signs to look for. I'm going to give you 6 things you can look for. 6 signs that tell you whether a developer actually knows what they are doing. These aren't technical things. You don't need to understand code to evaluate these. You just need to pay attention. And if you are currently working with a developer and you are not seeing these signs, that's a red flag. It doesn't necessarily mean they are bad, but it means you should ask more questions. Alright, let's go through them. Sign number 1. They ask you a lot of questions before they start building. Good developers don't just say yes to everything you ask for. They push you back. They ask why. They want to understand the problem you are solving, not just the features you want. If you tell them, I need a login system with email, Facebook, and Google authentication, a good developer asks, why do you need 3 login options? What's the use case? Can we start with just one and add others later if needed? If you say, I want this feature, they ask, what's the problem does this solve for your users? Is there a simpler way to achieve the same goal? Bad developers just say, sure, I can build that. They don't question anything because they are not thinking about your product. They are just thinking about tasks. Good developers act like partners. They care about whether what you are building actually makes sense. So, if your developer never pushes back, never asks why, never suggests alternatives, that's a red flag. Sign number 2. They talk about trade offs. Here's something that's true about every technical decision. There are always trade offs. You can build something fast or you can build it robust. You can optimize for flexibility or you can optimize for simplicity. You can use cutting edge technology or you can use proven, stable technology. Every choice has pros and cons. Good developers explain these trade offs to you. They say things like, we could use this approach, which would be faster to build but harder to scale later. Or we could use this other approach, which could take longer upfront but will save us time down the road. They help you make informed decisions. Bad developers present everything as if there's only one way to do it. They don't explain options. They don't talk about risk. If your developer is making all the technical decisions without explaining why, that's a problem. Not because they are hiding something, but because they might not actually understand the trade offs themselves. Sign number 3. They give you realistic timeline and actually hit them. This one's huge. Bad developers will tell you anything you want to hear. Sure, we can build that in 3 weeks. Yeah, that feature will only take a few days. And then 3 weeks becomes 6 weeks, and a few days becomes 2 months. Good developers give you realistic estimates, and sometimes those estimates are longer than you want to hear. But here's the thing, they are usually accurate. They know how long things actually take because they have done it before. They account for testing for edge cases, for things that might go wrong. And if something does take longer than expected, they tell you early. They don't wait until the deadline to say, oh, by the way, we are behind. If your developer is consistently missing deadlines or giving you overly optimistic timelines, they either don't know what they are doing or they are just telling you what you want to hear. Either way, it's a problem. Sign number 4. They document their work. This is something most non-technical founders don't think to ask about, but it's incredibly important. Documentation means writing down how things works, what each part of the code does, how to set up the project, how to deploy it, what the different features are and how they are supposed to function. Good developers document everything, not because they are being extra, but because they know that someone else might need to work on this code later. Maybe another developer joins the team. Maybe they themselves forget how something works 6 months from now. Bad developers don't document anything. And when you ask them to explain how something works, they have to dig through the code to remember. Here's how you check for this. Ask your developer, if you got hit by a bus tomorrow, could someone else pick up where you left off? If they confidently say yes, can you show documentation? Great. If they hesitate or say the code is self explanatory, that's a red flag. Sign number 6. They care about security from day one. Security isn't something you add later, it's something you built in from the beginning. Good developers think about security with every feature. How are passwords stored? How is user data protected? How do you prevent unauthorized access? Bad developers think we'll worry about security later, and later never comes. Or it comes too late after there's been a breach. Here's what you ask. How are you handling user authentication? Where is data stored? What happens if someone tries to hack the app? If they give you vague answers or say, don't worry, it's secure, that's not good enough. You want specific answers. If they talk about encryption, secure password hashing, token based authentication, regular security updates, that's what you want to hear. Sign number 5. They have a solid testing process. Testing means making sure the code works before it gets to you. It's about catching problems early, not after your users find them. Here's the reality. Automated testing is ideal, but it takes significant time and budget that many projects simply can't afford. What matters more is that the developer has a systematic approach to testing. A good developer doesn't just write code and hope it works. They have a process. When they make changes to one part of the app, they methodically check that they didn't break something else. They keep checklists. They test different scenarios. They think about edge cases. Without a testing process, every change is a gamble. You don't know what you might have broken until users start complaining. So here's what you ask. How do you test your code? What's your process for making sure a new feature don't break existing functionality? If they say, I just try it out and see if it works, that's a red flag. That's not a process, that's guessing. If they talk about having test checklists, regression testing key features after changes, or using staging environments to verify everything before deployment, that's a good sign. They should be able to explain how they make sure things work, even if they are doing it manually. Systematic approach is what matters. Look, I am not telling you this to scare you. I am telling you this because I've seen too many founders get burned by hiring the wrong people. And the truth is, you don't need to become a developer to avoid this. You just need to know what good looks like. Ask questions, pay attention to how they communicate. Look for these 6 signs. And if you are working with someone right now and you are not seeing these signs, it's okay to ask for explanation. It's okay to get a second opinion. Your product is too important to leave in the hands of someone who doesn't know what they are doing. If you are hiring developers right now, or if you are working with someone and you are not sure if they are the right fit, I am happy to chat. I am not going to try to sell you anything, but I can give you an honest take on what you are dealing with and help you figure out if you are on the right track. Just drop a comment or DM me. We'll talk it through. And if you found this helpful, share it with another founder who is navigating this same challenge. Thanks for watching.